Just letting those generic music bed rhythms get us in the zone here today. Letting our attendees in. Welcome, welcome to our first comers, first interactors, ready to get the knowledge. So if you folks are just joining us and you can hear the sweet sounds of my background music that's going in here, and you can see the slides up on the screen, please let us know in chat. Say hi. Let us know who you are, maybe where you're calling in from in the world today. I know we've got folks from across the US and around the world usually dial into this type of thing. And then the last question is, what's your favorite AI tool or use case? What are you using a lot? I'm a paid advanced user of ChatGPT. I must use it a couple times a day, but I've also been trying out Perplexity. I've been using Gamma a little bit for slides. Welcome to Andy Turner. Some familiar faces here. Good to see Andy Turner over there in the UK. All right, we've got Toronto, Canada, Houston, Texas in the house, Edmonton, Alberta. Welcome, Lindsay. Amy joining us from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Great state of Tennessee. Oh, Nick joining us from Sao Paulo, Brazil. This is great. We got South America here. One of our speakers is joining us from Istanbul today. This is truly an international gathering of HubSpot users, partners, fans, AI fans. Good to have you all here. So if you're just joining us and dialing in, we're asking you to say hello in the chat. It's always great that we're live. We can interact with each other this way. Maybe let us know where you're calling in from in the world today. You might have just heard me say we've got folks from like at least 3 or 4 continents here. We've got East Coast, West Coast, US, the North and the South are in the house. And then we're also, what I haven't heard enough of, and let's chime in here, what is your favorite AI tool or use case, folks? Because we are moments away from diving into how can we use AI, agentic AI especially, in service. So what are we messing with here, folks? Let us know in chat. Otherwise, we will ask you formally in a poll coming up in a little bit. So it's going to be interactive. We would love to hear from you, know you, and our speakers are also very much looking forward to discussing and interacting with you, answering your questions. It's going to be cool. Yeah, people using Notebook LM. I've heard about that. ChatGPT, you mentioned. Perplexity has replaced Google search, says Bhargava, one of our speakers. Yeah, Bhargava, I got the prompt to go change my Google search engine over to ChatGPT. I'm like, all right, I'll give that a shot, see what that's like. So it's happening, folks. Nothing against Google. I'm not saying that their Gemini or their AI generated search is flawed in any way, but it's just fun to play around and really dive deep on these tools, right? So Silicana says GPT Pro, Google Notebook, Copy. I love it. So I can tell. Yes, and Mike DeKetfield says, my favorite tool will be the one SmartBug introduces us into the meeting this afternoon. Thanks, Mike. And we didn't even pay Mike to say that. Mike's just a fan of SmartBug. I love it. So am I. All right, everybody. Last minute to go. Last chance to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're calling in from today. What tools are you messing with AI tools today? And then just a last piece of advice as somebody who has hosted a couple hundred webinars, used to do this for HubSpot Academy, and we studied very much how to do this right. Do yourself a favor as an attendee and try to silence your cell phone, put it away, or close out any emails, or shut the door, or whatever you can do, because we've got some really great live speakers who've assembled from around the world to speak to you today. And it's a really great chance just to really tune in and focus on this topic, this issue, for a good session. We may go all the way up to the 2-hour mark. We'll see, but it depends on the questions you ask and what we want to discuss. We're here for it. All right, folks. So without further ado, thank you all very much for coming. Thank you already for participating and conversing with us. We love it. Fires us up. Let us begin. First, we need to begin with a bit of housekeeping. Yes, of course, we're recording this. We want you to be able to review this afterwards. If there's somebody in your team who didn't get a chance to be here, a colleague who just couldn't show, whatever, bad timing or something, you're going to get a recording. There'll be a follow-up email. You hear me call this out at the end of the session as well today, which is going to give you all the resources, anything that we're talking about, links to go get the free offers, the free coaching and training, and the new sessions and the things that SmartBug is coming out for you, the resources that HubSpot's going to talk about, Agent.AI. That's all going to be in a follow-up email for you. You've already heard me talk about it. Please ask questions as we go. We love it. I'm watching the chat. My producer, Nikki Kamau from SmartBug, is also watching the chat. We appreciate you, Nikki, doing that. And then today's agenda. We've got a few different companies here on the line. We're going to hear from SmartBug and their product team. We're going to hear from Agent.AI and the leader of their team. And then also we're going to have SmartBug come on and talk about it as well. So we're going to, every 25, 30 minutes or so, we'll be switching gears, keeping it lively, coming at it from different angles here so that we give you multiple different angles, specific use cases, and you help dictate a bit of the content here. As we poll you live, we will adjust our sound bites, we'll adjust our emphasis based on what you're telling us you have used, you haven't used, what you know, what you don't know, what's exciting you, etc. All right, so that's our housekeeping. And then who are you going to be hearing from? Let me get you fired up about this. Okay, first and foremost, you're going to be hearing from, let's get to him, David Barron. Love that David is here with us here on the line. David and I used to work together at HubSpot. He worked with Sam and I, another one of our speakers way back in the day. He's been a leader of pretty much every product launch that HubSpot's done. David's had a hand in it one way or another, particularly when HubSpot's sales tools, remember back in the day, Sidekick, if you go that far back, that was Dave and the team, putting that thing together. So Dave today is product strategy and go-to-market leadership at HubSpot. He's been instrumental in shaping and launching some of the most exciting AI-powered innovations within Service Hub. He's got a sharp focus now on how AI transforms customer service. And David has led strategic product decisions at HubSpot and adoption strategies for tools that we're going to be talking about, like AI chatbots, assistants, conversation intelligence. These tools that we all know and we're seeing are redefining how support teams scale and succeed. David's in the heart of the machine of how HubSpot's deciding which of those features to use, which customer feedback do they act on, et cetera. So he's here today live. There he is at his home chiming in. He's here to walk us through these. You excited, David, to spit some knowledge here and tell folks what's going on, what you've been seeing?
I am very excited to be here.
Oh man, it's an understatement, folks. He's even more excited than he sounds. Trust me, I had him here before the call. He's here to walk us through excitedly how those innovations are being used in the real world, how they unlock services teams. I'm just psyched to have the band back here together here, having some fun with it. Welcome, David Barron. Thanks for coming, man. All right, so then next up, joining us from Istanbul, Turkey, with just a terrific backdrop there. It looks very luxurious. We've got Bhargava Gade, aka Bhargav. He's a senior product manager at HubSpot. He specializes in building AI-driven tools across Service Hub, bringing over a decade of experience in product development to this conversation here with you right now. He's played a key role in building the automation and AI features that help businesses, HubSpot customers and such, deliver smarter, faster customer service at scale. That's good. We want to talk about that, right? So if you're curious about like the practical side of deploying AI inside HubSpot, Bhargav is our go-to today. So he's joining us again. Took a little break from a family holiday in Istanbul, which we're grateful for, and he's sharing his insights on how companies are going to be using HubSpot's AI capabilities to transform their support strategy and improve both agent productivity and the customer experience. So once again, he's staying up a little bit late to hang with us here and to chat with you and answer your questions. Let's give a big warm welcome to Bhargava Gade. Welcome, Bhargav. You fired up for our session and to talk to some users and customers today?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's going to be a good time. We've got some good questions to ask you guys, so get ready to be in the hot seat, Dave and Bhargav. It's going to be good. Next up, we have a gentleman who's no stranger to this webinar series, this third and final chapter of the Agentic AI series put on by SmartBug. We have returning to the stage for the third time, Mr. Sam Mallikarjunan, also a HubSpot alumni, was joined around the same time Dave and I did. Now he's a seasoned growth strategist, entrepreneur, and today the general manager at Agent.AI. Sam's got an impressive track record, if you don't know him, from co-founding One Screen AI after HubSpot, which is a marketplace for out-of-home advertising, to leading growth while he was there at HubSpot Labs, and also serving as chief revenue officer at Flock.com. So CROs, they care a lot about customer retention, customer revenue, right? Lifetime customer value, amen? So he's also a former Harvard instructor, knows a thing or two about speaking at the high level. He's got a course on LinkedIn Learning all about AI. Is one of the most popular AI courses on LinkedIn today. And he's also a published author, co-author of the bestseller Inbound Commerce, How to Sell Better Than Amazon. So he's got, if I need to say it, he's got deep expertise in AI, marketing, business strategy. He's just so generous, loves to help teach and share with the community. And Sam is here to share how, to all of you, and answer your questions for how AI is shaping the future of marketing. We're so psyched to have you, Sam. Let's give a warm welcome to Sam Mallikarjunan.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. He's joining us from his command center down there in Florida. All right, now closing it out. we're going to be hearing from Aaron Lyles, Mr. Aaron Lyles, who is a seasoned marketing and sales strategist with over 18 years of experience driving demand and revenue growth through innovation, analytics, and tech-forward strategy. You might have heard from him if you joined us for our second episode in this series, Agentic AI in Sales. He did a great job talking through there. He's the author of The Marketer's Manual to Generative AI, how to harness AI to lead, innovate, and profit in business. It's a hands-on guide for marketers looking to stay ahead in today's AI-driven world. So we've got practitioners here, every single one on the line, people who can who are practiced in speaking and evangelizing and teaching folks like us all about how to harness some of the trends that they're experts in. So Aaron is going to bring us a unique blend of data-driven revenue operations, lean process optimization expertise into this conversation. I've seen his slides. He's got specifics to show us in the trenches, and he's passionate about helping businesses unlock real growth through AI-powered transformation. So buckle up for Aaron. He's going to want to hear from you. He's going to be speaking passionately and wants to steer the conversation to what you need. So let's give a warm welcome to Aaron Lyles. I'm so excited, Aaron, for you to show us some real-world examples of SmartBug implementing some of the things we're going to hear about from HubSpot and Agent.AI in the trenches.
Great to be here.
It's going to be a good time, folks. So that is our lineup. I'm excited. I'm sure you folks are excited. This group is champing at the bit to teach and to serve, but let's set the table a little bit. Let's talk about some of the trends that we're seeing. Maybe you've seen this as well. This is an imperative, what we're talking about here today. Customer service professionals save around 2 hours daily by utilizing AI tools. This is what HubSpot has shown us. Can you afford to be spending 2 hours on manual tasks, repetitive tasks? Can your customers wait 2 more hours to hear back from you to get a solution to their problems? No. And that is why these types of savings are too big for people like us to ignore. We need to adopt it. Let's look at the next stat now. It's not just HubSpot seeing this. Ask the folks at Gartner. 85% of customer service leaders plan to explore a pilot or pilot a customer-facing conversational generative AI solution in 2025. I hope some of you folks are like, yeah, that's my firm. And if you're part of the 15%, oh no, let's make sure that you listen up today, take some action items down, and we can solve that so you can join the masses that are definitely preparing to take this on and adopt it. It's just the benefits are too good to ignore. And let's close it out with this third stat that we've been seeing. 92% of customer service professionals report that AI has improved their response times, leading to quicker resolutions and enhanced customer satisfaction. When we think about AI in the context it brings in services, that's what we're after, right? So the proof is in the pudding. People are adopting it. They're seeing the savings. They're seeing the outcomes. They're planning to do more. We're in the right place at the right time here, folks. But that's just what we're seeing. That's just what we've been hearing. Well, we want to now switch and poll you all. This is your chance to join the conversation. We're very curious to see what you say here. But we want to ask you, first of all, are you new to this conversation we've been having about agentic AI all month? We've been started in late March and then through April, we've been doing this. Let us know. Question one is this your first time here, this session, or did you check out the marketing one or the sales one as well? It's just good for us to know if we've got some veterans here who've been part of the conversation. Can we, double down or reinforce some of those things for you? And then also the second question in the poll is, what part of HubSpot are you using today? And it's totally fine. You're in the right place if you haven't used some of these tools yet. This is not a pure play HubSpot customer service style event. This is for anyone, especially HubSpot customers, but anybody even considering using HubSpot or a similar tool. You can learn that here today as well. And we'd love to just know what the percentages of folks who maybe haven't used HubSpot today, not a user, but maybe a little hub curious, we like to say. Please let us know here by answering these two simple poll questions. Click. We'll give you just a few more seconds to do that. So we'll shut it down in 5 seconds, 4 seconds. Now's the time to click. 3, just 2 boxes, 2, 1, and we will close it out and see what we have, who we have here. Our users, our speakers are curious to see what we've got. So we've got a decent cross section here, and actually most folks here were either intended to come or has shown up to the series. So I'm glad, welcome. That's actually ideal. That you're kind of back with us here again. And some of you folks actually have a chance. It's the first time you had a chance to show up here. So I'm glad you had a chance to show up live. That's excellent. Let's go to the second question. Which hubs are you using in your toolkit? Very psyched to see. And I think we all kind of expected this, right, speakers? Marketing Hub, Sales Hub, the big heavyweights in terms of like what's been widely adopted in HubSpot. And we're seeing a chance for greater adoption, of course, in some of the other hubs like Service Hub, Content Hub, Operations Hub, And Commerce Hub. Wow, we don't have a Commerce Hub user in here. We got to fix that, gang. We got to link that together. I mean, perhaps Bhargav and Dave on here can give us some ideas, perhaps for if there's any tie-ins, not to put anybody on the spot. And very great to have a couple folks here who are just learning about how to use HubSpot, just looking to see the potential. This is a great type of webinar to prime yourself and do your research on. So thank you all very much for interacting. We love that. That helps us personalize this to you. So without further ado, let's talk AI in HubSpot Service Hub. And we have, as I said, Mr. David Barron and Bhargava Gade joining us directly from HubSpot to address these questions head on. So these are some questions that SmartBug has sourced from you folks. And then also please drop in comments, responses, additional questions, follow-on questions in the chat. But again, Dave, Bhargav, thanks for being here. Let's go to our first question to you. You speak to a lot of customers. You've spoken to a lot of CSMs and things like that inside HubSpot. You've spoken out and you do research in the market as you develop and launch these products. What are you seeing from your vantage point? How is AI fundamentally changing the way customer service is being delivered today versus some of the earlier use cases that were pioneered around marketing and sales?
Okay, I love this question because I feel like in post-sales world, the problem's been known for a long time. We have a bunch of customers. We need to make them happy. They have a lot of questions. And for the last 10 years, we've been sold tooling that like doesn't actually solve that. And I don't want to throw basic chatbots under the bus, but like the concept of a static chatbot that's like a Boolean if-then statement, like that wasn't really it. And I think finally with the advancements over the last like 18 months, we're actually able to deliver tools that customers want and service teams want. And to me, that's the biggest thing, is that we're bridging that gap that has existed for a long time.
Very exciting. I completely agree to take it to that next level of what's possible. Bhargav, anything that you'd like to add from conversations with customers and what you've seen?
Yeah. So like most customers that I've seen, the most common goal or expectation that I've heard from customers is that they want to scale support without, hiring more people. And by scaling support, I mean, providing 24/7 support, and also automating the most repetitive kind of queries and sort of leverage the human reps for more strategic work. So what I'm seeing is that more businesses, like they were not 24/7 before, are now becoming 24/7 because AI has made that possible. Customers are providing multilingual support. That was, again, you had to hire people who knew different languages. Now you don't have to do that because LLMs are pretty good at translation. And what's interesting is I see different interpretations of what people mean by repetitive and strategic. So for example, like one customer might consider cancellation requests, like a cancellation of an order, as a repetitive task because there's like a very clearly defined process for it and they want to automate it using AI. Whereas another customer considers it strategic because it's sort of an opportunity to retain a customer who's about to churn. So I think the definition of all these things is pretty varied, and how businesses are using AI is very different. But I think what's common is everyone wants to scale support, and we now have the technology to sort of do that.
Love it. And what I've heard from both of you is everybody wants to scale, but they still want to keep the experience personalized to the particular customer, to the particular way that they do business. There's a little bit of tension in there. So those are the broad trends you're seeing. Excellent. Well, let's bring it down now to the product level that you folks work on. Let's talk about the Breeze customer agent. How does what you've talked about show up a little bit? What is the Breeze customer agent and what's the vision behind it to help folks do some of the stuff you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we now believe that every business needs a customer agent. I think the problem that all businesses will face today, if they haven't yet tomorrow, is that as soon as a customer interacts with a well-built customer style agent or post-sales agent, that's the bar for every business that they interact with moving forward. And if you are not at least there, you're at a disadvantage. I think, obviously lucky for everybody on this call that we have that available for customers to be able to do. And obviously you can build your own. There's a bunch of tools that do that, but I think you need to be thinking about like, what is the minimum viable service level? It's been increased a ton. And early signs are super promising for our customer agent. We're seeing an average of 50% resolution rates. Like, what does your world look like when your post-sales team have 50% less tickets, or to Bhargav's point, like whatever your version of repetitive task is, there's a lot of value to be had and added into the customer journey. And we have a couple of customers that are 90%. Just think about what the makeup of your post-sales org looks like when 90% of perhaps reactive support is automated. And not only automated, but at a high level of customer satisfaction. And I think that's like, that is a world that I want to live in. I think that's the world that customers want to live in.
No doubt. And you're also showing us that that's the customer's appetite is to adopt those things. Otherwise, you wouldn't get resolution rates that high. So Bhargav, you help work on, your team helps work on building this product and so on. How do you talk about the Breeze customer agent, what it is and what it does for folks?
Yeah, so I think let's start with like what it is. I think at a high level, the customer agent is an AI agent that can use all the knowledge that you have as a business and also your data to resolve your customers' problems, answer their questions, right? And I think that's the big thing that has been unlocked with LLMs, that earlier using unstructured data was very difficult, that you had all these PDFs, you had your website, there was information about your company everywhere, but there was no easy way to use that information to answer your customers' questions or solve their problems, and now it is possible. So that's what the customer agent essentially does. It just looks up knowledge that you have already and also looks up data. Like for example, we recently launched a feature at Spotlight called Actions. So the agent can now make API calls to your systems and just fetch data from there to answer questions like, order status. So that's what the agent already does today. It looks up knowledge, looks up your system data, answers questions. So that to me is already pretty mind blowing, because this was not, I could not have sort of envisioned this, let's say, even a year ago.
Yeah, I would echo that, Bhargav. I can't tell you a single, and I shop a ton online like everybody does, right? I can't tell you a single vendor situation, including Amazon, where I could go and just go, what's my order status? Just go ask that into a screen and get an answer. It's mind blowing. Yeah,
exactly. And in terms of where it's headed, so our vision for the customer agent is for it to be sort of like a concierge, that it can handle any kind of customer facing conversation. And Nicholas Holland, who's our SVP of AI, talked about this at Spotlight. So I would encourage everyone to just, watch that talk. He shares a lot of detail there. But essentially, that's what we are trying to get to. I can't really share like very specific details of what that means, but yeah, I think the agent will just imagine like different kinds of conversations that you have with your customers today, and imagine an agent being able to handle those, right? And that's a lot of use cases. It could mean a lot of different things.
Well, good, because that's what I wanted to ask you was like, what are some of the use cases? But you just dove right into that. So I think those are some good examples. Folks, again, we meant it. What are you wondering about use case wise? Let us know in chat if there's some other potential use case, something you've been waiting for, a situation inside your business right now. You haven't even used Breeze Customer Agent yet, but you're wondering, can it do this or whatever? This is the time and the place to ask. And I also gave a plug for that HubSpot Product Spotlight session you talked about, Bhargav, which went down last week. Very exciting, over like 200 features I think were covered during that release. So what have you folks been seeing so far? That would be my next question, because you did talk about some of the problems that were solved. Would be, so how's the response been? Do you have any anecdotes of like some of the impact that you're seeing? Dave, you alluded to it a little bit a few minutes ago, but any other stories that you want to share of some of the potential impact people could be seeing here if they adopt these use cases?
Yeah, I have stats I can share. And as you were asking this question, I was like, we have a customer who's like actually given a name to their customer agent, and they refer to them by that name as if they're like a human as part of the team. And I think that highlights just how impactful this feature set has been for that business. Like, they refer to their agent as a person, and they talk about them in meetings. And I think like that's where we're at with the tools that Bhargav and his team are building, is like, this is actually a member of your team. Obviously we've had a bunch of really satisfied end users, so our customer's customer. And Bhargav mentioned this earlier, but there's like, customers want fast response time. Anytime that I've ever called a business or done chat, it's like, I don't care as much that the person I'm speaking to like knows everything. I just need to talk to someone now to feel like I'm being helped. And that is naturally going to move into higher CSAT, and that's what we're seeing. And then obviously internally, with internal teams, like they become happier because they're not doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you can point them and direct them to more high value added tasks that like help the business and differentiate. I'm still a huge believer on differentiation around service. I think that's one of the unique things, especially as software becomes just easier to build and competition increases. It's like, what does it feel like once you're a customer? And while these tools can certainly augment a company's labor spend, and maybe you don't need to hire as many people, it's, well, the people you have today, what could we be doing that we couldn't afford to because we didn't have the time before? And I think that's where things start to get really interesting.
No doubt. And we're parading here across the screen some great anecdotal feedback that you folks have been able to see, that you've been sharing around. I mean, just look at this, folks. We're seeing completion rates go up. We saw a high CSAT score, customer satisfaction score there that Dave alluded to earlier. Anything other context you want to add to these as we parade them across? This, I think, is the last one. Number of tickets?
I don't think so. I think I think it's just like telling that like where the technology is now.
Right.
And the folks that are highlighted in these stories, they're obviously early adopters, but I wouldn't consider them overly technical, overly sophisticated. Like they're normal businesses. Like Pietro, for example, is a chief marketing officer, and he's thinking about how to use Customer Agent. I think, like to Bhargav's point, yes, this tool set is kind of centered around Service Hub today, but if I'm a marketer or a sales leader and I'm thinking about the entire customer journey, I'm turning on Customer Agent because there are questions in the full funnel that we can start answering, and that should, increase conversion rates. That should create happier customers, and happier customers, as we know, buy more from you, which is great.
That's it. I've got my flywheel
Yeah, there you
sticker here from
go.
HubSpot. The customers
There
are in the
you
middle,
go.
gang. You want the other stuff. You got to make sure we take care of them, right? We know that. So obviously, more satisfied raving fans from your customers makes CMOs and CROs very, very happy, to be sure. So the proof is in the pudding here, as we said, folks. But I'm sure, look, even though folks are adopting it, there's a lot of people talking about it, there's a lot of excitement, there's also some concern. Maybe you folks have it. So maybe Dave and Bhargav, what do you say to those customers, those would-be users, what have you, about the concern of this is going to kind of replace our team and this is going to shake things up and maybe we'll lose something along the way? What do you say to those folks who are just nervous about the unforeseen impact of widely adopting automated or artificial intelligence driven solutions in HubSpot?
I think it's a valid concern, but this is where we're going. This is what customers expect. And I think if you were to look at, if any business operator in CS or marketing or sales were to look at their post-sale process, you couldn't tell me that it's perfect. And so using these tools gets you to a better state, which is ultimately a better business outcome. And then, as I mentioned, I think this is like, you kind of just have to change the thinking. It's like, yes, right now, most AI tools are just replacing a repetitive task that a human would do, like augmenting the human. But then what does that open up for the human that you still have? And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of innovation in these general business workflows. Is like, okay, cool. We used to have this human pushing a bunch of buttons in software and then still doing a bunch of work. When we can reduce the amount of overhead there and maintain a high level of customer experience and satisfaction, now what could we be capable of? And so I think the humans aren't necessarily going away. I think they're going to be reoriented around higher value driving activities. I think they're going to be much more centered around human connection, right? Which is like what post-sales folks have always been really great at. And because we haven't been able to give them efficiency with tooling in the way that they want, like they don't get an opportunity to be human and again, to build their brand and to make customers truly happy. So I don't know. I think there's a bunch of stuff that will change over time here. I think you could potentially see like tier 1 support teams not growing as quickly. But if that doesn't happen, then what about tier 2 or higher touch services that you can now provide as a business because you have budget and space to do that? So I think it's, as a business, I think it's a really exciting time to be thinking about and pushing the envelope of like, what could we do if we weren't doing all this repetitive task?
We're hearing David Barron, product strategist at HubSpot, talk about really the sound bites, the mindset, and the vision for why HubSpot customers should be adopting and utilizing Service Hub inside your own company. And it's exciting. And so folks, I hope you're taking notes. And if there's somebody who you feel is not fully bought in your organization who's feeling this concern, besides yourself, maybe have them check out this recording. Maybe have them contact their CSM at HubSpot and have them talk them through it, because HubSpot knows this talk track. Obviously, they know the cases, they've heard the concerns, they can empathize, and then still cast that vision, get people fired up to adopt these things in responsible ways. So just great stuff there, Dave. Did you have a follow-on or an add-on?
How are we doing on time, Nick?
I think we're doing pretty good. We're about to round out a few more questions, but if there's something you want to quickly add on, go for it.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing I will say too about like folks that are hesitant with AI, I actually think that it doesn't necessarily come from this is going to replace me. It comes from like not knowing what they should be doing. And I think from what I've seen as someone who's delivered trainings across HubSpot to a lot of functional areas, like last week I did our finance team, training them on AI, it's pretty apparent that we need to start encouraging our teams to just explore AI. Like we don't know what's possible with AI yet as individuals. And we basically made this leap from like AI exists to do something in your job with AI. And what we missed is this logical like discovery phase where just like use AI to like create silly images or do some random task for yourself so that then you can start thinking and building use cases and tie overs into work life. And so, yeah, if anyone on the call has folks hesitant to use AI, I think the first step is like, cool, like do something silly in your personal life with it, like make a silly cartoon photo or whatever. And then over time you start playing around. And when you're sitting at work, you're like, oh, I did this thing in ChatGPT. It's kind of similar to what I'm doing at work. Like maybe that would work. And then I think you can get to the point where you're like actually really thinking about how to implement, but baby steps first. At least for me is how I do it.
So folks on the line, you just heard Dave echo what you heard Sam Malakarjanan talk about in some of our previous sessions, what you've heard the folks at SmartBug talk about. Like everybody's saying this is the right way to get started. Just try something that you're comfortable with. Just a great reminder there, Dave. And we're going to see if we can get some folks to back that up when we bring Sam on here in just a moment. But Bhargav, over to you while we still have you, sir. Excuse me, is back into the product, but still addressing concerns and giving people confidence here that this is worth trying and piloting. How does Breeze handle those tricky moments in dealing with a customer issue where maybe it doesn't know the answer or a customer is getting frustrated, kind of goes off the standard playbook you assumed this was going to be designed to handle? Any just thoughts on what users can do in that regard to handle that?
Yeah, so let's first go like behind the curtains a bit to see how exactly this thing works. So when the customer agent receives a question, or rather, let's take a step back. Like when when a business adds all their knowledge or to train the customer agent, it goes into a database, what we call a vector database, right? And when the customer agent receives a question, the first thing it does is it looks up all the knowledge it has to answer that question. So if it does not find the right knowledge to answer the question, it just says, I don't know. It doesn't take the risk of answering that question. So we play it very safe to just make sure it does not make up any information or hallucinate, which is a typical problem with LLMs. So yeah, it always relies on your knowledge. It's so smart that even if it finds knowledge, but the knowledge is not a great match, so it's not feeling confident. So we have this confidence threshold, which sort of says that, okay, this is a low confidence match. It asks clarifying questions to build confidence that, okay, this actually is what the customer is asking. And the answer that I have found in the knowledge base is actually the right answer. So it does that to sort of hedge, the risk of like giving a wrong answer. So that's how we sort of get things right like most of the time. And in cases where the agent does not have an answer, it proactively offers to hand off to live reps. And you can also configure the agent to pick up on keywords and say that, okay, if the customer is using these keywords, then always hand off to a rep. So, customers can customize their handoff logic. So that's how we sort of, handle all the risk.
Well, I love, again, your emphasis on customization. You might say, hey, don't try to address the question AI if you're not confident, or AI don't address the question if you hear certain keywords, because even if you do think you can give an answer, we want to have a rep join the conversation there. And this really sounds like what when I was on the customer success team at HubSpot, and I know Sam was there too, this is what they train us to do as well. Don't attempt to answer a question you don't know. If you get to the point where your brain goes, I don't know, you admit it. And it's much better to say, I'll go find the answer for you. I'll go let somebody know and we'll come back with the answer. That's what we're doing here at scale, guys. It's pretty consistent with what I think we would expect any human to do in the first place, or any customer would expect as a response if we didn't quite know. Don't make it up. So it just sounds great. It seems so natural. So last question for you guys here, because we know you're busy and we appreciate you taking some time out of your days and your travels to be with us here. So folks, last chance, by the way, as I asked my question here on your behalf, please let us know in the chat. Last chance to get a direct live answer from Dave or Bhargav, and they will admit if they don't know. By the way, just let us know in chat if you have a last question for these guys live. See what they can give you their perspective on. But our question for you, as you see here on the screen, for those of us who are leading this journey inside our own companies, what's the best place to begin? And Dave and Bhargav, if you want to each give your own sort of like couple sentence bit of advice, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, so I'm not going to repeat myself on like just play with it and have some fun.
That was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, I think it's starting with whatever the most repetitive task your team is doing is. Look at it from the lens of, does it actually make sense for us to do this? And if not, how can I use AI to replace this task? And that's it. So like very, very simple first principles thinking. And that's where you start. You start small, and then you just start stacking that over and over and over again. And in a month, 6 months, 12 months, like you may have fundamentally changed what post-sales looks like within your business for the better.
And I'll say, as somebody who has used every single hub that HubSpot has come out with and have spoken at Inbound and taught you about it, that's always what I've said, Dave, what you just said. Find one thing that'll drive value, make sure it becomes a habit, it's totally adopted, move to the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing, and just crush them one at a time until you've got 4 or 5 different use cases and stuff that are going across your team. Pilot it with one person if you have to, one team if you have to, and then roll it out. Great advice there, for sure, from the trenches. Bhargav, what about yourself? Your take on where people could begin?
Yeah. So I think the big difference, or the only difference I've seen between customers who are seeing exceptionally high resolution rates, like 70%, and customers who are seeing low resolution, is the quality of content. I think getting the quality of content right is a really good first step, because it's not just useful for the agent, but it's also just useful for your customers, right? I mean, if you have high quality content on your website, on your knowledge base, and like just +1 to everything David said, ordering existing tickets to understand what are the repetitive tasks and trying to automate them. But I think the one thing that every customer should definitely do is just play around with the customer agent. We have a preview and a testing experience, right? You don't have to go live to see what the agent is capable of, right? Just feed it all the knowledge, feed it, your website. It can crawl your website in seconds, right? Just add content. It just literally takes you less than 15 minutes to set it up. So just crawl your website, upload PDFs if you have like support docs that you've created for your human rep team, just add all of that. And then just ask the customer agent questions. And you will see that it's perfectly capable of answering those questions. And it'll just give you the confidence to move forward to the next step and publish it, and play and let your customers ask questions, and you can monitor all of that in reports. We have an amazing reporting tool. So I would say, test the agent, ask it questions. That's the most easiest thing you can start with.
So true, folks. Let's make the pledge right here in front of these guys. We're going to add to our calendars 15 to 30 minutes in the next 7 business days. We're logging in. We're going to click on a couple things. We don't care what happens. We're not going to publish anything. We're just going to get in there and start clicking on this stuff. Start feeding some content in there, and then we're going to send Bhargav a message on LinkedIn and say, "I did it, Bhargav." I sent it to David. "I did it, guys. It's cool." All right. So let's make the pledge. Really great information here, guys. Last chance for questions for these 2 great subject matter experts from the trenches of the HubSpot product team. And while we do that, we want to launch our poll, because I know David and Bhargav were curious to know your answers on this one. After all that you have heard prior to this session and all that you just heard from these folks, what are you currently using in your service process? Let us know this first. what is the status quo? Do we have anybody here adopting some of the features that they're using that they just spoke about, whether it's in HubSpot or not? It's okay. You know, we have a couple of folks who are not using HubSpot yet. Let us know here, clicking on which one you think, or you know, your team is already adopting, if any. All right, we'll give you a few more seconds on this. Let's find out from each other where we're all at. A few more seconds here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see where we're at. Okay, look at that. So auto replies on the website. Love that, because the HubSpot chat bot has been around for a bit, but maybe we could even go even further with some of the things that David talked about with some of the new power there. Ticket triage, again, good to at least see that, but we're still seeing a vast majority here not adopting it, which is, I guess, kind of exciting, because let's make that pledge and let's flip this so that the next time we're asked, we can get a couple more of these use cases adopted. And for those of us who are looking for competitive advantage, how can we delight and be a first mover in the eyes of our target market by providing some of these features? We're already seeing the majority here perhaps are not. So definitely some inspirational motivation here with these results. And I believe, Nikki, my producer, we have one more poll question. Yes, we do. All right. So this is the one that I know David and Bhargava are most curious about. What are you excited about? So it's totally fine if you're not adopting those features yet. We get it. That's why we're here. We want to change that. So which of these are you most excited about? Maybe there's something that we can send you, something we can keep in mind. Just let us know which of these maybe are you most excited about after we spend a few minutes here talking it through. All right, we'll give you a few more seconds. I think that customer agent for WhatsApp would be pretty slick. But let us know in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hopefully I'm giving you enough time. I know there's a bit of reading, but we'll check it out, what we got. Here we go. Dave and Bhargav, we have most folks excited about using the Breeze agents, but also that knowledge base agent. And Bhargav, I believe you were mentioning that, and Dave, you know this too, that the product spotlight covers a lot about the Breeze agents that are available, right? So if you're excited about that, folks, look no further than the excellent content that was put out last week by HubSpot. I think perhaps I think that might have been also shared in chat for you folks, so check that out in chat. I think Nikki dropped that. Excellent. All right, so folks, you heard from 2 product experts here from HubSpot. You let us know where you're coming from. You learn from us. We learn from you. That's what it's all about. Other questions, you let us know. We can forward them on to Dave and Bhargav from here, but otherwise we will release them back into the HubSpot wild. Thank you, David Barron and Bhargava Gade for joining us here today, and we wish you guys the best, and we'll see you around soon. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the excitement continues here, folks. The excitement continues. If you thought this was good, SmartBug has heard your interest in this type of content. They are launching a new series. If you haven't heard about this, Smart Take, it's now in its 4th season. They're bringing it back. It was very exciting. They did this for a few seasons, was well received. They're ready to bring this back again. So it's a monthly HubSpot learning series, and it will be all about the 5 most important product updates, what's relevant for you folks. And it's every second Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12% Eastern time. So you'll hear more about that in our follow-up email, but get fired up for HubSpot for SmartBug coming back with Smart Take. Very exciting stuff. So next up, we have my friend Sam. This is always an exciting part of this session because Sam has worked at HubSpot. Agent.AI and the agents that they make can work with HubSpot, but he also lives in the greater, broader world of AI for everyone, HubSpot customers or no. So just psyched to have you back here, Sam, to take a look at the third angle, the customer success, the whole customer support angle of what's possible with agents, eh?
This is the most interesting angle of all the ones that we've talked about.
Stop. Really? You think so?
Absolutely. This is the golden age of being a CS rep. It doesn't feel like that because everybody's instinct is, oh, we're going to replace chat reps and support reps and stuff like that, especially with like the economy being the way it is. People are like looking to cut costs and things like that. But the winners are going to be companies who use this efficiency to provide a better, more human experience. So like, as an example, okay, so you use AI and now one live chat rep can manage, instead of 3 concurrent chats, they can manage like 30. Okay, you can either say I need 1/10 the number of support reps, or you can say my support reps can now provide a much better experience. They can understand the person's industry, their job title, everything else like that. So it's the winners. The two professions that I think are going to win the most because of AI are CS reps and brand marketers.
How about that?
performance marketing is like very commoditized. That's relatively easy to replace. Brand is about storytelling, which is really what you got to do to show up in language models these days. And then CS reps, that's going to be, that's software development is becoming commoditized, right? Like the only advantage you're going to have is the degree to which you provide a human experience for your customers. That's going to be the differentiator. It's the only differentiator left.
And something that, Sam, you and I saw HubSpot pioneer very well and continue to evolve, build into their product, build into their processes, turn into content and curriculum for their customers to follow along. We've seen that evolution very well. So let's get into it, Sam. So how does Agent AI fit into this amazing new world that you're saying that CS leaders and CS staffers are going to be living in? What is Agent AI? And why should service teams and leaders be excited about it, even if they're HubSpot customers or not?
Yeah. So we're not part of HubSpot. We are, I describe us as strategically adjacent to HubSpot. Most of us are former HubSpotters, but we're agnostic. We're kind of the Switzerland. There's two parts to Agent AI. One is we have an agent builder. So if you can use the HubSpot workflows tool, you can build an agent, which blows people's minds, by the way. Like if you build an AI agent and then you show it to your boss, they're going to be like, when the hell were you getting a CS degree without me noticing? And you can use all the latest models. It's totally free. Our philosophy is that, the performance of models is going up, the cost is going down. So like charging for those models doesn't make sense. And it lets you build things that are really, really custom. And they don't always have to be, serious things, right? Like I built a chess coaching agent. Somebody else built like a Dungeons and Dragons agent. But somebody else built an agent, I think it was on one of our like workshops that we did, that is great for CS reps. Basically, it takes inbound tickets, strips out the meanness, because like customers can be mean sometimes, let's all be honest, preserves the meaning, but makes it so that the support reps can respond and answer, but without having to, kind of deal with all that mental stress. And that's like somebody built that in 45 minutes. Somebody who had never written a line of code in their life built that in 45 minutes. And so the flip side of that is we've got something like 25,000 people have built agents on the site. We've got over 1.5 million people who have signed up for it. So most people aren't builders. You can be, it's easy to be. I would want to see more people be one. But most people aren't builders, they're users. And so you can find agents that are perfect for you. You can customize them, you can create teams. So maybe you want to have it like strip out the meanness, then you want to have it like search your knowledge base for you, then you want to have it like generate a good answer for you. That is what it's designed to do. So you can build your own AI agent, really blow people's minds. Great talking point at holidays, by the way, with your family. Yeah. And you can like discover and use other agents that other people have made.
Let's bring a fun agent to our next family gathering. I like that. And you jumped right in because you're a natural, Sam, and my next question, which was, so what are some of these real world applications? Is there any other ones you want to speak to specifically in just a little bit of a deeper use case? Just give us like a few different ones, filtering out tickets and things like that. Anything you want to just double click on from a use case to really spark people's imagination as to something that's simple but powerful?
I'll tell you my favorite one by far is in the CS space, you've never been able to practice without actually talking to people. And you and I remember, by the way, we used to do kind of personality matching in the early days. Like if you had somebody who was super arrogant and that you'd send them to me, right? If you had like
we got a tough one for you, Sam. Yeah, that one does. Yeah.
Like if you had somebody who was like a nice person, you'd send it to, somebody else on our team. And what I love to use AI to do is practice those scenarios. So tell it, this is my company, these are the prospects, this is the situation that I want to practice. And you can do it out loud or you can do it typed. Actually get better at how do I handle these kinds of situations, because it's never been possible before. CS reps have only been able to get better as fast as they can cost their company money, right? Because like you don't know how to handle a given situation. So that is my favorite way. And you don't even need anything super custom. It's better if you customize it. So you can use Agent AI for that. But if all you do is go to ChatGPT and turn on like voice interaction mode, tell it that like, I'm a CS, manager at this kind of company. This is the situation I want to practice. Like be hard on me. Don't go easy. Like that is my favorite way to use it. The other example is using it to help you understand other people's perspectives. So you and I have joked, right? Like at HubSpot, we were kind of fishing with dynamite, right? Because we were marketers marketing to marketers about marketing.
Oh, yes. It was a golden age.
Oh, yeah. So it was easy, right? Like I once sent an email that was, I know that you know that I know that you opened that email and didn't click it. Most companies, you can't get away with that, right? Because you're not the person you're selling to.
Right.
So having it adopt that perspective and say like, here's how your knowledge-based content reads to an actual person, right? Because it's hard for us to step outside of our mindset and see that. And then also using it to help you understand what the people around you think of you, right? Like, what does the marketing team, what is my job, my role in the company feel like to the marketing team, to the sales team, to the CFO, right? Like that is something that is very hard until you have decades of experience. You've just done lots of jobs. It's something that's very hard to do, and it's a great career accelerant. If you can really understand, here's how I can help my CS team work better with marketing or with sales, et cetera. So there's all the process automation stuff. That's really cool, but I think that's kind of table stakes. I think that the really exciting real world applications are going to be, how can I be a better, more empathetic, more useful communicator to the people that I'm here to help? You'll be happier at work, right? Like, because let's be honest, we all hate it when we screw up. And it's better to screw up against an AI because it has no opinion about us, right? Like it's not going to be like, oh, like Sam's an idiot, he's not getting a second try. You can screw up that conversation as many times as you want. You screw up that conversation with a real customer, that's a bigger deal.
That's right. The stakes are high. So we're seeing already that you can use agents like you're describing to do some of this coaching and feedback. But you talked about some process automation, which could be table stakes. But as we just saw in the last poll, some people are looking to get at the table and have some stake. So what would be a good process? And I know it's probably simple to those of us who are well initiated on this, but like what might be something that you think this is just like, we got an agent for this. This works. This is something you should at least start with process wise that will prove the case and then get you thinking more about, all right, let this thing coach me now.
One, analyze the questions that people ask. So your documentation is probably not good enough. Even your blog content, whatever, your knowledge base, et cetera, it's probably not good enough. People are asking questions to real humans and real humans are answering those questions, and understanding and extracting that. Like CS reps don't have time to like slack the marketing team and be like, oh, like I got this really interesting question. Here's the answer. Do that. So like finding all of those questions, making that documentation available, and then also making it available for the other people who have asked those questions. I think that's important. I think that taking survey responses, things like NPS, and classifying them, it's really, really good at that. Like just import all of the things people have complained about, things people have commented on, et cetera. Have it do that. And then the other thing is training and feedback. So building an agent that, especially if you can connect it to your system, even if you just export an Excel sheet, whatever, fine. But like if you can connect it to your system and say, here's the questions people asked, here's the answer that people gave, and here's how the customer rated the response. And then that gives the AI all it needs to then say, cool, for everybody else that happens. Like when I'm done with my CS call, then tell me how I could have done a better job. Right? Like I keep using chess as a metaphor because it's something that, it's hard for humans to do. Like nobody's perfect at it. Computers are better at it, but we do it anyways. But after every game, you sit there and you go through. It's like, oh, like I should have done that. I should have done that. I should have done that. That's how you get better. And when Game of Thrones, you remember that? You and I used to watch that together.
Yeah.
In Boston, right?
Yep.
One of my favorite quotes: "Chaos is a ladder," right? We're
Littlefinger.
living in an age of chaos right now, and you can either be intimidated by that, or you can use that to grow your career and your company much faster than anybody else can. So if you start doing it for yourself, improve your team, improve these processes, that's going to be your competitive advantage, both as a company, but also individually in your career. So take all the stuff that's like language based, that's locked in the minds of a bunch of people who can't possibly have enough time to talk to each other. Those are the processes to automate.
So I know everybody here on the line, myself included, is fired up and excited about the possibilities. Can you help us understand where Agent AI fits in to people wanting to adopt this versus going to ChatGPT for that use case or to HubSpot's Breeze AI customer agent? When and how would they use some agents on Agent AI in this ecosystem and wanting to adopt some of this?
Yeah, so the companies who are building AI agents for their platforms are going to have the best AI agents, right? Like the HubSpot Breeze agent is going to be better at helping you use HubSpot than any agent anyone else can build. It's just a fact. It's going to be the same thing with Salesforce with anybody else. However, they are generally context constrained. right? So it's not going to, connect to your Google Calendar and the CRM and say like, here's the people that I'm meeting today, look up their last 100 posts on LinkedIn, and then generate like interesting things for me to kind of break the ice with them. It's not going to be able to do that. Agent.AI, where it fits in is one, just get started, right? It's free, which is a nice, like, strong value proposition. Go build something fun. I'm building one right now that's helping me plan my trip to Scotland. Just because like it can do all the searching and stuff, for me. It can understand that my wife likes creativity. I like to spend 5 hours at museums reading everything that anybody has written. My wife Jen likes to spend about 45 minutes at museums. So use it to build agents that connect things that aren't just inside the same ecosystem. And also just like use it to become AI curious, AI competent, right?
Yes.
Use those
If
agents.
nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah, have it be low key, right? And then take things that other people have made and customize them, right? Like take a LinkedIn prospecting agent. Okay, maybe it's good, right? The one that you find on Agent AI, but take it, customize it, and have it work for your industry, for your customers. That's where Agent AI becomes really powerful. Is one, integrating tools from all over the universe. Two, you always have access to all the latest models. So generally, it's about 24 to 48 hours after somebody announces a new AI model, it's in the platform for free. But then three, like really making it your own. Like the HubSpot product team is going to build a better HubSpot agent than you or anyone else can build. It's just a fact. But making it your own so that the agent that you're using is the most useful to you. That's where Agent AI comes in.
Sweet. Thank you for clarifying that. And I'm definitely taking away that, if nothing else, folks, it's a sandbox. It's a laboratory. I know Sam and I, when we were onboarding customers, we talk about use this cool automated email nurturing feature, or the CTA will dynamically change. And there's just a fact that like that might actually happen out in the wild if you don't click on the right thing, can cause customers not to even draft or try anything at all. So if you want to just be sure, this is not going to go into anybody on my website, nobody in my database. You can do it on Agent AI, test it out amongst yourselves, like in a sandbox environment, and then say, hey, is this inspiring me to maybe see if I can get the equivalent done in context in Breeze, or is this something I actually want to keep building on because I don't think Breeze can do this at all? And it's a cool use case I want to expand upon, make a little quiz tool or something like that. It's all possible. So on this question, Sam, before we move on from it, anything else to point out that might be different for how they would think about adopting agents on Agent AI if they were support manager, frontline service rep, or customer themselves? Because I think you made a good example about training and feedback. Could be good for a direct rep who's just ambitious to do that, but especially for their managers who want to give like feedback in context at scale in a non sort of threatening way. But anything else that you want to add to that for different use cases for different people who experience or are part of the customer experience?
So we'll start from the least important people and work our way towards the most. So support managers.
Sure.
One is obviously like all the kinds of stuff that we've talked about, but another thing that they do is they've got a lot to process, right? Like I used to go for a run every morning and I would just listen to all the recorded calls that the team had with customers. And it was awesome for me because I've never felt closer to customers than in like the Gong kind of recording era. But it's too much, right? There was no way for me to be able to process it all. So being able to understand what's going on and being able to like give feedback without having to like I literally ended up training for a marathon on accident just because I was spending 4 or 5 hours like running in the morning, like listening to calls. So being more efficient with that. Also getting better at training. Like, let's be honest, we're not all the best at training. We're not all the best at giving feedback. Like practice one-on-ones with people. Become a better manager and a better people leader. Have it, have it brainstorm with you. Like, I'm having a hard time getting this person to do X, Y, Z. Like, those are a good things to do with AI agents. The frontline reps, I think it's all about how can you deliver a better experience, right? How can you say, it's not just like give me a moment while I pull up your account. It's like give me a moment while I pull up news about your industry and understand, the things that maybe you haven't even thought to ask. Like deliver that better experience. And then and also practice, right? Again, I can't emphasize this enough. It's not a person, but it's really good at pretending to be a person. So use that, right? And use that to practice. And then for the customers themselves.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Yeah.
I mean, they're the most important ones, right? One of my favorite quotes in all of business comes from Jeff Bezos, right, at Amazon. When they added negative reviews to the site, his investors like, listen, Jeff, we know you think the internet's gonna be big and all, but you don't know how to run a business. You make money when you sell things. Why would you, why would you do anything to discourage somebody from buying? And Bezos's reply was classic. He said, we don't make money when we sell things. We make money when we help people make purchase decisions, like helping people make the decision. And we're already seeing this. Like Perplexity, somebody mentioned it earlier, has replaced Google in my life as well. And I asked it the other day. I'm like, should I buy like a new router? Because Netgear came out with a new router, and it actually told me no. It's like, hey, based on your needs, based on what you have. Bet the people at Netgear wish it had said yes. Also, why brand marketing is going to become more important. Like, how do you get the internet to feel about your brand a certain way? But for the customers, it's like, how do you give them tools to help them make decisions? You and I remember like the one-to-one onboarding or the inbound marketing consultation that we used to have.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like the reason we killed the inbound marketing consultation, the free IMA, was because it wasn't scalable. Right. I actually asked this question in a company meeting back in like 2014. I said, like, are we just going to have 100,000 IMCs, the inbound marketing consultants who did that stuff? And Halligan didn't have a good answer because he was the CEO of HubSpot. He couldn't predict the future, right? He didn't know like AI was coming like this. But the good answer now is like, you don't need 100,000 IMCs, right? You can have AI teammates who chat with your customers, help them make decisions for hours, and then loop you in when they need you. So like, how do you help customers make better purchase decisions is the most important thing that you can do with this.
Sweet. And I know we're going to be talking about as we get towards the tail end here, some links where you can go learn with Sam and his team, and a workshop that they're offering to help you start to explore some of these examples and the potential that he's talking about. So stay tuned for that in just a moment. So again, we're seeing the potential here, Sam, but like you said, 10,000 agents being built, over 1 million users on the website. You've seen some things. What are some most common mistakes you see when companies are trying to adopt agent-based automation in service? Anything for them to watch out for? Any gotchas, or even just something humorous?
Humorous, yeah. A couple of key ones. One is trusting AI too much, right? So it is going to hallucinate. It's going to make mistakes. I always describe it as, an intern. It's a very well-educated intern. It's an intern fresh out of, Harvard MBA and everything like that. But it's still an intern. So anything, you should check its work. Like, don't just let it respond to people for you. There was a funny thing about like a lawyer was using AI and it just invented case law that didn't exist. And they looked very, very dumb in front of the judge. And the judge in our case is the customer, who's far less forgiving than actual judges are, like law judges are. And so be sure that you're checking its work. Don't trust it too much. The second thing is don't not trust it. Don't not try. So we are used to a world in which technology is invented. McKinsey writes a bunch of analysis on it. A bunch of consulting companies then tell us exactly how to use it. We go to a training and then we use it. Right? Like think about the CRM or social media or anything else like that. Right? You had like 20 years to get good at social media before not being good at social media was like a competitive death sentence, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Now it's like you've got to be taking advantage of this. No one's going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do because I don't know. Right? Like if you feel overwhelmed, let me like put you at ease here. I study this for a living and I'm not that far ahead of anybody on this call, right? Because it's changing so fast.
That's why kudos to every single one of you hanging out here on this call. You're going to get the knowledge and cutting edge, fast moving stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing is understand that AI is better when it's focused, right? So give it context. It's why like being able to customize your own AI agent is important. If you just use it to say, write me an email, right? Just based on how AI is created, it's just going to average out every email that it's ever seen written and say like, here's a mediocre email. If you say like, you give it, your company data, who you are, your customers, everything else like that, the inputs are going to be better. So have it be focused. Don't just go to ChatGPT, type things in and be like, it wasn't good enough. So like, I guess AI is not going to be a thing for me. That's wrong. I promise you AI is going to be a thing for you and your business and your career and your customers. But you need to give it a helping hand, right? Like when we were first talking about this series at agencies, we always hear this, right? It's like the customer says vague things like, it just needs to pop more. Like, what the hell does that mean? Right. But being able to have like, say like, what does pop mean to you, client? Like if it would annoy you if a customer said it to you, because of how vague it is and because they're not giving you enough instruction. Think about AI the same way. Like you've got to give it some of that guidance if you actually expect it to do a good job for you.
Yes, and I know I've got some friends here on the line who've been in the agency or client services space, and we know that well when we get sort of a vague, make it pop or make it go viral or make it pretty, make it like Apple, make it like Apple's thing, whatever it is. Like, oh, okay, that's specific. But anyway, love it, Sam. So and folks, please let Sam know if you've got some questions specifically about Agent AI, any of the agents, because as you saw Nikki Kamau say in the chat, we got a workshop that Agent AI is putting on with SmartBug coming up where they're going to dive a lot more deeper into the specifics. We're just getting you fired up here with what's possible. But Sam, what's your take on this elephant in the room that we asked Dave and Bhargav to address? What's your take on people being worried that, hey, if all this succeeds, I might get fired, or somebody might get let go from the company, especially in these trying economic times. I'm only going to hasten my demise by putting some of these features in. And what's sort of your angle and take to arm those of us who want to adopt this, but we're afraid either we're going to feel that way or our peers are going to feel that way? What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, so there are companies that are going to do that, and those companies are going to die, right? Like you don't want to keep working at that company if they have that mentality of like, oh, just like how do I cut costs and deliver the same mediocre experience but at a lower cost? Those companies are not going to survive. So if you happen to be at a company that decides that they want to replace their CS reps with AI, you dodged a bullet. Congratulations. Go find a company that is more forward thinking. It is going to be, I strongly suspect that instead of having software companies with like 80% margins and services companies with maybe like 20% margins, you're going to end up with these service software hybrid companies or service product hybrid companies that have like 50-ish% margins. And the competitive advantage is going to be how much, because if you do what everyone else does, you get what everybody else gets. It's not a competitive advantage if everybody has the same tools. So if everybody has AI and everybody's delivering like an AI experience, the only competitive advantage you have is going to be, can you provide a better, more empathetic, more useful experience that only humans can do? Like we're quite a far away from AI being able to just do the same job as well as everybody, right? Artificial general intelligence, people talk about it. Not even every person is as good at doing everything as every other person. No human is good at everything. So like we're pretty far away from AI being good at everything. And also when that happens, we collectively retire as a species, right? So it's like it's not necessarily worth worrying about.
Right.
But AI is your company may replace your role with AI, but if they do, go find yourself a company who is more committed to like how do we win in the long term? Because the winners are going to be those people who provide that type of hybrid experience. But then also just from a practical perspective, like you think about your career and my career, like I got to run, HubSpot Labs. I think I was like 26 or something like that when that happened. It's just because like, I had no college degree and I had nothing to lose by staying at the cutting edge of all this. I got into the marketing industry because, all the folks in the cigar industry were like, hey, Sam, you know how the internet works, right? Like, yeah, sure. Okay. And I started building like websites for people. So being an early adopter, one, even if you're not an early adopter, your long-term career is safe. I cannot say the same for everybody else. So middle management, as an example, data analytics, even like to a large extent, like software development, a lot of those things, those are the people who are going to have issues. There's
Just a
a
few
great
years
article.
ago, those were like the prima donnas, like the highest paying jobs, best paying jobs, like war for talent type
I
of
think
stuff.
Karma Fun, right? Like the brand marketers were playing second fiddle to the performance marketers. CS was, playing second fiddle to, to marketing and sales and a lot of that stuff. But now it is very much gonna flip. There's a great article in The Economist this week that was talking about how the real advantages of AI, both the risks and benefits, are going to come from the interaction edges, right? Where people are used to interacting with people, you're still going to need that. You're not going to replace that. Where people are interacting with systems, with tools, like there might be a universe in which you never log into HubSpot again, right? And I think they're going to have to like completely rethink how they think about user interfaces, and so is everybody. There's not going to be a world in which customers read the frickin' documentation without talking to somebody. Right. We did this study like 10 years ago. It was like 40% of the answers from support tickets at HubSpot, the answer was in the documentation. People didn't want to read that. Right. So like one, AI can help you surface that kind of stuff. But like two, being able to create that competitive advantage for yourself is going to be huge. So one, you're not you're not going to be replaced by any company that knows what the hell they're doing. especially not in this chaotic environment, because it's an opportunity. This is your company's opportunity to do better and do more. And then two, because it's so new, because it's scary, just like, you know, inbound marketing screwed over people like me who used to write ebooks and sell them for $9.99, right? And HubSpot's like, hey, what if we gave them away for free?
That's great. Yeah.
It changed, you know, changed the trajectory of my career. But if you are one of the first to figure those out at your company, you are going to have a huge advantage in whatever comes next.
I totally echo what you're saying here as we close out, Sam. Such an important point for all of us to take away. If we're nervous about this, if we have team members who are nervous about this, because we did hear this at HubSpot, Sam, like, you will get promoted when you find a way to work your way out of a job. If you can find a way to say, I've already solved what I'm doing, I'm ready for the next more sophisticated thing, they're going to go, give this person some more responsibility. Let's see what else they can scale and automate and so on. You wait for somebody else to do that for you, they're going to wonder why you didn't think of that and how useful you're going to be around here. So completely echo what you're saying here. So we've got a comment from Paul. Thank you, Paul. Sam, I would love to be an early adopter and kind of feeling like now is the time to really, really start trying out the use of agents in my small company to create efficiency and make some sales. Where do I start? So let's say he's willing to go to Agent.AI. And would you suggest maybe the workshop perhaps that we had up on the screen, or?
Yeah, the workshop is a great place to start. If anything, because it's hard and intimidating to start, right? And that's what amazes me is, you know, the workshop I think is usually 90 minutes to maybe 2 hours long. And you end up with people who create agents, right? Like by the end of it, they are agentic developers and building things that are useful. For your sales team, one, have them practice, right? Sales reps, just like CS reps, you can practice social interactions. And by the way, too, anybody who's worried about their career, also practice interviewing, right? Like practice interviewing at another company or whatever.
Hello.
Yeah. AI. Practice interviewing new people on your team. But then also for the sales reps, the big challenge is we've always had sales rock stars, and it was hard to scale them. So if you have the CRM data, and especially if you have recorded sales calls and outcomes, being able to just dump that into an agent that you build and have every one of your sales reps be just as well trained, as well informed, as like context aware as your best sales rep, like that's huge. Especially if you have a small team where you don't have like a learning and development team, and this, you know, at best you have like film night where you review recorded sales calls and have some pizza together.
Yeah. Classic.
That is, you know, that's a big advantage, and that's like a great place to get started. It's just say, like, here's a bunch of, you know, sales call recordings or things like that. Here's the ones that led to sales. Here's the ones that didn't lead to sales, and now let your sales reps learn from that. The smaller you are, the more important that is, because you can't just solve it by having a big sales training team.
Folks, we're hearing knowledge and experience from the trenches from Sam Mallikarjunan, the leader of Agent.AI. He's here to serve you and help make AI available for everyone, HubSpot users or no. And if we want to flash that slide, Nikki, that's next. Chance to hang out. Oh, sorry. We're going to hear from Aaron in just a moment, but a chance to hear from the workshop is coming up. I just want to plug that one more time. And you're going to get that in the follow-up email, so no need to throw that up on the slide if we don't want. But I believe so. Sam, thank you so much for sharing, man. Sam's going to hang out for a few more minutes. If you folks have questions, drop them into chat. Sam's very vigilant on the chat there, so let us know if you've got some questions. There it is, folks. At the end of the month, we've got an agent builder workshop with another HubSpot alum on the Agent.AI team with Sam, Mike Redboard, our friend. He's awesome, very friendly, very helpful. Ran the customer support team at HubSpot, I would say. So he also knows a thing or two about customer success and how agents might play into that. So again, it's just insane, the smorgasbord of knowledge that SmartBug is making available to you folks via these folks here from Agent.AI and HubSpot and their own team. It's just awesome. So mark your calendars for that, 11 a.m., 4:30. We'll send some folks over to you, Sam, to get started on some of these pieces.
Sounds good. Be optimistic, people. Be optimistic. This is the golden age for your career, and take advantage of it.
Amen. We are here to bring the optimism, the much needed optimism in this fairly uncertain time for all of us. Let's celebrate that. And folks, we want to hear from you again. We appreciate the diehards here, the folks who are really waiting for the specific examples coming up here from SmartBug. This is the perfect story arc. We had the vision, the features of what's possible from HubSpot, taking it to the extra level, the entire ecosystem through Agent.AI. And now we're going to have SmartBug come on here and talk about, in just a moment after the poll, specifically how they've built customized implementations of everything we've talked about for actual clients and HubSpot customers like yourselves. But first, let's run that poll, folks. We want to hear from you. What is stopping you? A great question to follow on what Sam just ended with. What is stopping you? What are your biggest barriers that you think? We'd love to learn from you. We'd like to learn from each other. Are we all facing the same obstacles, or is it sort of spread out? What do you think is one of your biggest barriers? Read that through. Lack of clarity, not enough time, unsure if it'll be worth it. The tools seem a little bit too hard to integrate or work into the workflows we have today, or really it's just not my decision. I'll get blocked right away. I don't feel like I have enough power to advocate or adopt this myself. Let us know in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see where we land. What's stopping us? Let's see what the breakdown is. If you all had a chance to chime in, folks, and we can help each other. Lack of clarity. Absolutely. I think that was bullseye for why SmartBug even put on this series. Time and resources. We talked about maybe blocking out 15 to 30 minutes on the calendar. We know that's tough. Maybe it's a lunch hour or in the margins in the morning or in the evening. No concerns about the ROI. I think everybody's sold on that. Tools being hard to integrate into workflows. Stay tuned for just a few minutes here for Aaron Lyles to talk you through how that might be able to be fixed with SmartBug's help. And also, not your decision. Leadership hasn't prioritized it yet. Hopefully, you've now heard a bunch of sound bites. Re-listen to the recording after today, folks. Send these sound bites, send this information, send this content to your leadership so they can get inspired as well. We know the journey. We know your pain. Now, next question. I love that we're polling you here because I just love interaction. I like when you folks can inform our content. I know Aaron is watching from SmartBug. All right, which of these things am I going to double down on then? So let us and Aaron know, our next speaker, if AI could solve one headache for your service team, what would it be? Let us know, and we want to try to double down and personalize this in real time to you here on the balance of our webinar today. Just another half hour to go, I think we're going to have with Aaron on this. Let Aaron know. Let us all know. Is it reducing that response time, maybe summarizing information across tickets, surfacing knowledge in the knowledge base quickly and easily for people, automating some repetitive tasks so it doesn't take you too much time, you get back to people faster, or being able to spot and flag, hey, this is not just your ordinary issue, this is a bomb about to explode here. Maybe all of the above. Let us know in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see where we got it. Let's see where we ended up here, folks. Always interesting to see from each other. Yeah, a decent spread, but lots of folks looking at that knowledge base. That would be very cool, right? I don't think there's an easy solution like that in almost anybody's customer experience flow, besides sometimes like really big, sophisticated companies, right? We have the power at our fingertips, hard to believe. So great to see that spectrum here. Folks, Aaron, hopefully you're taking notes, are interested in almost all those pieces on the wish list here. So without further delay, let's bring on Aaron Lyles from SmartBug. He's been so excited for weeks. Honestly, I've been working with him. Aaron just couldn't wait for this chapter. He's got some great examples of actual customers. So Aaron, I'm going to let you come onto the stage here. Are you fired up to close us out with some real, like, what does this look like in the wild? Like some of the most sophisticated, like fire stuff?
Absolutely. Super excited.
Man, we're about to geek out here in a good way, folks. Get fired up. I think I've got a question to tee you up here, Aaron, hold on. So we've heard from HubSpot and Agent.AI and their perspective. Take us through now what you're about to show us for what are some of the biggest opportunities. What are we about to see that you folks have been working on?
Right. In terms of service and agentic AI, I think that the biggest opportunities, and not to, I guess, be too repetitive here, because I know that, but I do want to kind of call back
just a little
Bhargava, Bhargava and mentioned, scaling support without scaling headcount. I know that there's a lot of interest there, and I think that there's a lot of possibilities there. Dave mentioned this whole idea of this minimum viable service level, how it's like increasing, it's kind of increasing exponentially. And I think Sam kind of spoke to that as well, where he's just like the level of support that we're now empowering with AI is kind of really increasing at a significant clip. And which goes back to the whole point of, like, if you've got people who are just looking to only reduce headcount, just, period, and that's how they're thinking about things, probably not the best company. You really want to probably be looking at how you can improve just the customer experience overall. And that's where we're seeing a lot of power with agentic AIs. It's depending on where it is in the customer experience, where it is in the journey, whether it's engaging people like on a site in a support portal, and it's just helping with deflecting tickets, or if it's, helping, maybe higher level customer service managers, or, like consultant level, if it's helping them to be able to surface, like, again, look at those KBs or surface information out of KBs a lot quicker to help facilitate a better experience for the customer. There's a lot of opportunity there. Overall, I think it's we're seeing a lot more availability. So the ability to have more 24/7 around the clock coverage.
Yeah.
And also like with, and then global coverage as well. I can't recall if anyone mentioned it, but like the ability to be able to service people in different languages.
Yes.
That's been like a huge challenge for a lot of organizations who they want to maybe try to break out and go into another market, but they don't have that language capability in house. Right. And so now they have to get to this whole challenge of getting to a critical mass of customers to where they got to get to that critical mass, but then you have the challenge of staffing up for that. And just to, before you get to that critical mass so you can service it. And it's kind of a whole chicken egg scenario challenge there.
Yeah, totally.
So, but the ability to do that, AI can help us actually just, a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently be able to service people, in depending on the context, but service people in different languages. Another,
and by the way, Chris Handy, who's here on the line, I know he's been following the space closely, says it's just another great example. You can truly eliminate some of the resource constraint trade-offs in trying to think of like breaking into a new market where there's a different language barrier.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, if I could, Aaron, just for the sake of time, could you help clarify for folks, because we definitely know the potential's there, but I think where folks want more clarity is when is it a good idea to maybe look inside HubSpot and the built-in solutions? HubSpot talked about that. When is it a decent idea to go look for an agent? Sam talked about that. When is it a good idea for a customer to consider talking to a leading HubSpot solutions partner like SmartBug about building truly custom solutions? Why would that happen? Like, how does that defer that approach for solving some of the things you just talked about that's been echoed that can be solved in a variety of ways? When is it truly custom is a good idea to start thinking about?
Yeah, so there's a few things. Again, like, yes, I would agree with with I think what Sam mentioned is that anybody who's building an agent for their platform like HubSpot is going to have the best agent for that system. But where you're going to see challenges maybe is that like you might have performance challenges. So there might be output quality. You can, depending on the system and the system that you're using, whether it's HubSpot or some other system, because there's like another system every 5 minutes, another AI platform crops up. Whatever platform you're using, you're going to hit limitations sometimes where it comes to like you can prompt it and you give it system instructions all day long, but it's just not quite getting there. It's not getting you that quality that you're looking for. And so that'd be one use case. Another would be like speed. There's sometimes issues with latency depending on how accurate the question is. So like, great, we can get a really great detailed response from the agent, but it just takes too long. And from the customer experience,
processing, thinking, processing,
exactly, all of that.
Yeah.
And then cost in some cases, depending on the platform you're in, predictability, consistency. And so those are a few. A few others are like the domain expertise. In some cases, you're just going to have extremely, extremely deep domain expertise that's needed. I think about back where I worked at one point at a fastener company, and you just wouldn't believe how much engineering knowledge and specialty information is necessary in one of those areas. And you're not necessarily out of a off-the-shelf platform. You can't get that level of, you can't get like a really good domain expertise out of some of the off-the-shelf AI agentic systems. And so that would be a use case where it's, okay, maybe we need something a little bit more custom.
Makes sense. It makes total sense. So I'm excited. I believe you have some examples of some of these things in action that you wanted to show us, like how customers have actually worked with SmartBug to offer some of this more proprietary, more specific industry or niche specific knowledge quickly and easily and in a nice custom works for our business, works for our customer way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's exciting, folks.
I can share.
What is this?
Yeah, so this is basically just an illustration of some of the This is just like a generic high level agent. But the key point here is this: whether this is a customer on the left, or it could even be a CSR or CSM, but we got a human here. They're engaged with an agent. And the key is that we've got this agent has got access to these various resources. It's got instructions or prompts that we've given it. Maybe it's plugged into our service ticket history. And so some of this is like with like a system like HubSpot, this is what they're doing to some extent, right?
Right.
But with a custom situation where it might come, where you're going to get with a custom agent, you get access to additional layer of control, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for example, a lot of people don't realize it, but like if you're using ChatGPT, there's actually ChatGPT is like an interface, and it's wrapped around that LLM, the GPT LLM, for example. And there's a lot of settings behind the scenes that you never see, you don't have access to, that they configure for like a generic experience. And you don't have access to those. And a lot of platforms don't give you access to those because they're trying to control the experience for you. And so a custom agentic solution can allow you to have access, because developers have access to these settings when we can dial it in. We can dial in things like randomness and temperature and creativity and various aspects that, again, you'd never have access to otherwise.
Makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing is just going back to that domain expertise is you can integrate a little bit. Sometimes you've got better integration and more options when it comes to like other, integrating with ERPs or file systems or knowledge bases or even other agents, where you can have your agent managing other agents. So, and then I would say that the going back to your question about kind of doing a demo of a few things that we've built over here at SmartBug. Here's another example here. So before I show you that, so this is an example of a case where we've got this would be an agent who is interacting with, or we've got a customer who's interacting with a CSR, CSM. They're on a call, and then we've got an ambient agent that's just listening. And all it's doing is listening live. And we've all seen these agents where they're like taking notes and then they show us a summary after the fact. But what if you wanted something that was listening live and then responding to you live, like on a side channel, just like you might have with a manager or someone who might ride along on a call with somebody? You could have a situation like that, and we could develop something like that. This is another example of a custom, where we could develop a custom solution for this kind of situation. So you've got basically, it's listening for keywords, it's listening for objections, it's listening for upsell opportunities, and then it's chatting you maybe in Slack for what it's seeing or finding, or where you're asking it in the chat, hey, can you find this? What about XYZ? And it's able to float that up in your, it's able to scan your knowledge base and then float that information up for you.
Powerful.
Yeah. So, this is so another reason that you might want a custom solution is, like, you can see here's an example where we just got a custom interface, right? So we've got, again, some of the back end stuff we talked about. We've got some of that configured, but then you might want to have it, like, you want to have your own bespoke wrapper around it, your own bespoke experience. And this is key. I think this kind of goes back to like partially what Sam was talking about in terms of differentiating on the customer experience. So, you're not able to necessarily do that with out of the box agents necessarily. And so in the use case for us with service, like you can see here, this is more of an e-commerce kind of example, but there's no reason why these images that you're seeing on the right here couldn't be like diagrams of like your lawnmower, and it couldn't walk you through how to change the oil in your lawnmower, or how to build the shelf, right? You're having issues trying to figure out, where does part A connect to part Z? I don't get it. And the agent can walk you through how to assemble things and float up other information for you.
And you're so right what you said earlier, that it would be very tough to rely on ChatGPT to do this for you, for your customers and stuff like that, so reliably. So you've got some folks fascinated on the line, and Chris is actually asking, can you talk about this interface? Are you building this interface custom, what we just saw there, as well as some of the back end programming you talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can actually just kind of just demo one right here. So for example, this is one. This is the framework that we've developed. And we've implemented this, as you can see, we've implemented it, or we're in the process of implementing it for few different customers. We've got a great study around company Potomac Psychiatry, and which you can find on our website, that where we use this same framework for them. And but just to kind of walk you through a use case here for like a deflection in terms of what's possible. So let's say, like in this case, let's pretend like this is an IT company, and I'm going to just say, like, let's say I've got my printer's not working. My printer's not working. And the opportunity here is that it can, so first of all, it knows about me, right? Because I'm already in the portal. It knows who I am. It knows where I'm at, right? So because it's pulling that out of a database. It knows that I'm in building B in room 204. Okay, yes, that's it. And the great thing about this is these things are so forgiving of our typing, right?
Yeah.
Which goes back to that experience.
And I'm sorry, I was looking at some comments here on the side. I think you may have addressed this, but this is just, again, you could not get an agent to know this information. You would not want a client sharing this information in any other system besides some back-end bespoke thing where who sits where is shared in a proprietary protected database that shows up here.
Right.
It only gets queried under certain circumstances, such as an IT ticket. Then it'll go look at it. It just seems so obvious when you show it us now. Like, of course, you couldn't just do this in ChatGPT.
Yeah, and we use this because the flow here that I'm demoing here is that because a lot of people, I mean, I think you're right. They underestimate the value here. So, like, do I see any messages? I don't. This is what it's doing is helping us to logically kind of just walk through the process, and I don't have to set up that whole if-then logic. That Bhargava at the beginning talked about the Boolean kind of nature, or Dave mentioned the Boolean nature of chatbots in the past. It's actually able to just kind of contextually know what it needs to ask first, second, third without a whole lot of programming. So is the printer powered on? Yes. And this seems very rudimentary, but you consider that this is the kind of stuff that we've got IT and service professionals right now, humans are doing this kind of work right now. And this is the kind of the things where they typically don't enjoy, they don't enjoy the work. It's just very rote. It's the same problems over and over again. And there's no enjoyment. So we see any messages, no, I don't see any.
And not to mention the costs even of staffing somebody, even if they were willing to do it. That person needs to get paid. That person's got time off. They've got benefits and stuff like that you have to pass on to the customer to help cover.
Right. And I think that the real magic here is, again, it might have been Sam that mentioned this high idea of like being able to have a person manage like a team of agents, right? Where they're just stepping in when things need to, when that human touch is absolutely needed. So let's print a test page. Great. Yes. Let's see. And so, yeah, we can skip ahead. The point is that this will escalate for us, and it saves us a lot of time doing rudimentary kind of troubleshooting.
Right. We can see this potential, and I just not even considered this use case among the many that were talked about here for the last 90 minutes or so. Is what about supporting a group of individuals at set desks with set machines and set parameters and security concerns? There's just so much that you'd have to set up custom for that. But then once it got done, you could see it would make a ton of sense to provide that solution specifically to a dispersed large team of electronics and computers and stuff. What else? Is there another example you want to show us there, or other flows that you wanted to demonstrate?
No, I mean, I think that we could probably show. Let me see if I've got another possible. I've just stopped sharing.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, if you want to go back to your slides, we can do that. Otherwise, I have some questions.
We go ahead and roll. I think that what I share gives people a good idea in terms of the capabilities.
Yeah. Well, again, then I have a question for like the so what about what we just saw. Where do companies struggle in implementing some of the use cases you talked about and like stuff like what you just showed us? What's the catch? What's the gotcha around making that work?
Sam mentioned kind of in so many words. He mentioned like having blind faith. He didn't use that phrase, but kind of just assuming. I call it like force fitting AI. The assumption that if we just cram AI into it, that everything will be fine. Well, we do have some people that are very just like just put AI in it and we'll just do AI. So I'd say that's probably a big one. Don't assume that it's just going
going too far in one
Right,
direction, saying
right,
it all must be
exactly.
automated. Yeah,
Right.
AI.
And like I've written a book, right? Like on AI. So I'm bullish. I don't want to
Right.
scare people, but I'm real bullish on it. But again, just over trusting it basically.
Yeah.
I think other areas is where we've got a legacy solution that exists, right? So if we got a legacy solution that's easy, it's efficient, it's reliable, it's not broken, like probably not, like let's not fix that, then let's go see where else where we've got where we've actually got problems.
Yeah. Quick jump in, Aaron. Do you help companies assess where the potential opportunities are and help them decide? And you can point out, no, I know you're excited, don't break that. Here is where something you weren't even thinking of could really delight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's something that, like, when we're meeting with, and of course, invite everybody, anyone who's interested in exploring that, we welcome the conversation, because it's always just a conversation. But that's where we've got like architects like Mr. Grand Maitre, who wasn't able to make it today, who I'm filling in for. Him and other architects will meet and kind of like brainstorm and figure. They really start with a brainstorm and just a conversation of where are you having issues, where are your really start with what are your business challenges, what are the KPIs that you guys are having issues with, where do you see the friction points in your experience, and then understanding business rules and what have you.
Can I jump in and have a follow-on on that?
Yeah.
About the KPIs. So what do you talk to companies about, and help us understand the types of KPIs and needles that could move, that could justify the type of investment in getting a partner like SmartBug to help you? Like, what are some of the things that people should be looking to or do ask you to move to justify this custom approach?
Yeah, I mean, so what, in terms of what I'm hearing, it's customer satisfaction is retention is a huge thing. Retention. And then of course with that, there's typically the satisfaction and then effort score, or just effort in general, and which goes to friction, right? How difficult is it for people to do business with us? Are we able to handle their inquiries, whether it's an inquiry about where's my order at, what happened with my order, or it's an inquiry about the status of a higher functioning deliverable. So that's kind of what I'm seeing now in terms of the KPIs that we're looking at from a service perspective. Deflection rate, it really is going to depend on your situation. So it's kind of across the board, but like in some cases it's going to be deflection rate. And so deflection rate would be like ticket deflection rate. Are we able to actually reduce the number of tickets, and that's tickets getting generated to humans? Are we able to reduce the number of tickets getting kicked over to humans? What's the resolution rates here? Another one would be, and then really important is going to be the lift, right, from implementing agentic AI. So what's the actual, what's the improvement for a, what's the agent assisting rep lift, if you will? So average response time improved once it's been kicked over to a human. What's their average response time? What's the rep time saved? How much time are we saving them time? Is the accuracy of our solutions, is it improving? Are they sticking? Is employee satisfaction going up? Because I think that's also an important metric. Like if your employees are becoming more miserable as you improve processes, you might need to dial in other things other than just your AI, right? You need to kind of not lose sight of that. But I mean, those are some of the key ones that And then I would also say, probably a few others are going to be your average handling time, your first call resolution. Are you able, first contact resolution? So is the agent able to actually handle the engagement itself completely? And then do people purchase afterward? And that's a key one. We can deflect tickets and then people can leave because it was a horrible experience. So we always want to make certain that we don't lose sight of what happens after the engagement with the agent.
That's right. Well, when you spoke about making sure that the actual users of these custom solutions are satisfied, and you talk about how you do assessments to help get people aligned on this is the thing that we should apply AI for, and you just talked about these are the KPIs based on your situation that if you did apply this custom solution you can influence. Can you just give us any other tips for how folks here on the line as they leave today, they can start, how does SmartBug talk to executives about these projects? Once you get rolling, is there certain things, sound bites, approaches, how do you get the executives bought in? Because it's one thing to get a champion or even their boss to fund this, but as you said, there's other stakeholders, other people are going to have to get in on this. There's going to have to be people who are going to adopt it afterwards. Any tips for how SmartBug best approaches these conversations and the things you'd like to cover or bring up?
Yeah, I would say that try to link everything. Link it back to executive priorities. It's just that's kind of like politics 101, right? Like they've got objectives that they're trying to achieve. So then tie it back instead of just coming to them and saying, "Hey, I think we should AI." Sometimes executives they're operating at such a high level that really they're thinking about the objectives and then goals. They're not thinking about the tools. I myself have had an experience because I'm real gung ho in the technology of approaching, people and like approaching executives with, hey, look at this technology. And they're like, I literally don't care. How's it going to help me move this number?
Straight up.
So always tying it back to whatever their priorities are, I think is like number one.
Keeping them up at night. Yeah.
Right. What's keeping them up at night is like actually perfect. I think a perfect question to ask ourselves, what's their objective? Is it revenue? Is it customer acquisition? Is it customer retention? Referrals, is it effective service level, and then working backward from there, and then knowing what their measures are. Like, okay, great, they want to improve, acquisition, but then what are the actual measures that they're looking at there, and then maybe understanding why. I think is a good place to start. And then also I would recommend like starting with a pilot. You don't have to boil an ocean. I would recommend not trying to boil the ocean. This is very important, actually. This goes back to why I see things kind of fail. And this is like common with automation, right? Just marketing automation. People try to, you've seen it probably. People want to, out the gate, automate everything across the entire spectrum of possibilities of what they could automate. And so like, don't do that. Like start small, start digestible, start with one narrow use case. It's got a high likelihood of success and move the needle there and then expand. And then the other thing I would say is just involve other people. Like don't try to work in a silo because especially with AI, I think it can, depending on the nuances of your of who's involved, of the personalities involved in the organization, it can sometimes, you don't want people to think that there's some kind of top secret AI thing happening over here. Like involve people. And it's especially important because not just for that reason of like just keeping people alert so they're not surprised, but also they have the insights, like especially people in service, involve the people who are actually engaging your customers on a regular day-to-day basis, and involve them in the solution to help find out like, hey, what's possible, where are we having issues, where do we think we could really move the needle?
Awesome, Aaron. You covered a ton of good ground here, man. And I know we could go on and talk about this more in depth. And I know that SmartBug will. So I want to offer this. We just heard from Aaron, like some real in the trenches stuff as to now where you can take it the furthest in your organization to fully customize to get SmartBug to help you assess, strategize which to pick, to align with your stakeholders. Like SmartBug can help you do all that. So now we've been to the very top of the mountain of what can be done in a fully custom way. Let's talk about how you can begin your journey. You have a chance to win 20 hours with folks like Aaron and Matthew Grant-Matra, who you heard from the last couple of sessions, for the whole SmartBug crew. There's a drawing for everybody who registered, or everybody who attended. There's a chance you could have 20 hours with these folks doing some of the things that Aaron just talked about, that they have meetings around and stuff at a very high level. Wouldn't that be amazing to get your team bought in, to have a really solid plan, to pilot something and be so cool? And then Aaron talked about his colleague Matthew, who you folks who've been on this might recall was in the sales and the marketing sessions we did for this series. He's actually had another AI conference right now, just getting more knowledge, more cutting edge stuff. So SmartBug can stay in the lead for you all. You can book a meeting with him to talk more in depth about some of the things that Aaron just talked through on behalf of SmartBug. And I told you, hands-on workshop where you can build your own agent April 30th with the leaders in the space, Agent.AI, and more work in the trenches here. You can actually test out this little bot that our producer, Nikki Kamau, made on Agent.AI with very little experience doing this, just walking the talk that we've been saying here, going in, clicking around, setting up a few things. She built her own little bot to quiz you on your AI readiness. How cool is that? You can't lose. So a bunch of great hands-on help here, not just here's a PDF, good luck, watch this video, good luck, from the SmartBug team. Really awesome to see them just back up their mission of they're here to help. And then folks, again, big PSA, next step to continue this conversation, mark your calendars. Aaron will be there. We'll all be there to see what you can build. You can meet our producer, Nikki, who made that awesome little readiness quiz and stuff like that. So hopefully you'll sign up for that and register. That link is in the chat. It's also going to be in your follow-up email. So we'll take you to a big thank you to David Barron, to Bhargava Gade, Sam Malakarjanan, you, Aaron, who joined us here, man. I really appreciate the conversation. My name is Nick Sal. I do this for a living, help MC and put on events, especially for the MarTech, the sales tech, the HubSpot ecosystem. It's just been an absolute honor to be here on behalf of SmartBug for you all. Thank you all so much for your listening, for your questions, for just the really great conversation we've been having. Not just on this session, but like the whole entire series of the last several weeks. It's been awesome. So once again, there's really only one action item for you after today, which is check your inbox, folks, because the email that you use to register, we're going to be sending you all of the resources that you need. Will be in your inbox after today. Once again, my name is Nick Sal, your illustrious host and MC. Thanking you all so much for being here, and we hope to see you on a future SmartBug program in the near future. Thanks.